right, I've got 6:31. We'll call the regular meeting of the Common Council to order. We'll start with the roll call.
Seth,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
Todd Kirking, okay, Emma,
Here.
Todd Spaeth,
Here.
Cindy,
Here.
John,
Here.
Crystal,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
Justin,
Here.
Todd Kirking.
Here.
All right.
There it went. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. All right, item number 2, approval of the April 15th, 2025 Special Council and Committee of the Whole minutes.
This is AJ. I move approval of the minutes.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
This
Steve,
is
I'll second.
Steve's.
We got a motion, a second. Any additions, corrections, or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 3, council announcements. Any member of the council have anything they'd wish to bring forward? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the first period for public comment. Any member of the public wish to make a public comment, now would be the time. Gregory.
Hi, everybody. What's on my mind today is 3 weeks ago we had a council meeting and there's a presentation of the new Enchanted Park. Our Parks and Rec fellow will give a presentation of some possible ideas, and in that 3 weeks, I just had some observations and some reflections about that, and I thought I'd share those with you today and just see if anything sticks to the wall or anything like that. I've had 2 kids and that have enjoyed the park, and it's one of the most beloved things, as everybody can agree on here in town. And so changing that out is going to be a big deal to a lot of people, and myself included, of course. But so I had some reflections about that I'd like to share with you in my 1 or 2 minutes here. I asked myself, like, why is that so beloved? Why is that park so beloved and cherished? And my mind came to because of the design of it, and the camaraderie that came together to put it together. And so why is it so beloved? And I thought that one thing that kind of separates it from the rest of parks and slides and that sort of thing, of just implements, is that it really touches on children's imaginations. Kids can go over there and they make believe they're a fireman. They go over there and they make believe they're a policeman. There's a theater over there and they could, make believe that they're acting. They make believe that they're an astronaut, right? So it's engaging with them in their imaginations. Along with the spatial intelligence of that park is pretty incredible. The crawling through it is not so, I think everybody here has seen that in their kids and grandkids. So the observation there then was knowing that we're going to have a new park there, but wondering if keeping some of those best elements that engages the children's, not just them physically, but mentally and spatially, so the idea that I'd just like to toss out is that would one of the possible presentations or so forth be a kind of a hybrid, perhaps, where the new implements are placed in the park, and some of the imaginative pieces that can be are kept, at least as another proposal. So rather than just kind of erasing everything and putting something new in there, it could be really interesting and really engaging the kids and again in a very imaginative way. So, that's all. So I hope that's helpful, and, our Parks and Rec guy, if that has any value. And people know where I can be reached. I'm available. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Gregory. Anybody else wish to speak public comment?
Hello, I'm Patricia Anders and I live at 426 South Rock Avenue. I'm also getting over a cold, so excuse my scratchy voice. So I'm here to speak on the bicycle pedestrian path that I think is before the council for a vote tonight. And I just want to preface this by saying I'm a huge proponent of bicycle safety and pedestrian safety. I like everything that's going on Main Street. I even like roundabouts. And I did complete the survey and I respect and I applaud the efforts of the committee on putting this together. But there's something about it that does give me pause. And this plan outlines large stretches of multi-use pedestrian cyclist paths to replace existing sidewalk all over the city. And I'm familiar with these paths because the block north of me on South Rock has such a path. And at the time it was proposed, my neighbors were not happy about it. There's 5 of them. They were concerned about, it's a 9-foot wide path, and they were concerned about property loss, loss of mature trees, loss of driveway space, and then resale value. But the path happened, they fought it and they didn't win, and they accepted it and it's there. I know that they did negotiate that the city provide the snow removal for the path and that the city maintain liability of the path, and they did get that in writing. As far as I know, that wasn't a given, that that they were not going to be responsible for the path. So this plan, I say this just to illustrate that these property owners were informed beforehand and had an opportunity for input. And the current path proposal shows these paths planned. I mean, they're all over the city. It's, down South Street, down Maple, down Rock Avenue, like East and West South Street, East and West Decker, Northeast Avenue, from the map that I'm seeing. And I just received this last week. So my bad for not being able to speak to somebody on the committee about this before I came here. But by my off-the-cuff calculations, this would impact up to 150 property owners. And I just think something that has such a broad range, I just feel that the property owners who will be impacted should be informed. And I know that they could have shown up at the meetings, but the average property owner, even if they are a proponent of pedestrian and bike safety, probably aren't going to go, engage in these meetings directly unless they're an avid cyclist. So it just isn't a one-size-fits-all path. I mean, there are houses that are already, mine is one that's just already very, very close to the sidewalk. There's properties that have big mature trees in the path. I mean, I drove around and looked. There's 2 driveways south of me on Rock Avenue, where their driveways, they won't be able to use their driveways. It's going to take up their entire driveway. So I just would like for there to be more dialogue and an opportunity for input on that part of the plan. And I will do my due diligence tomorrow and speak to somebody who is on that committee and learn more about it. There may be something that I'm missing. I'm just going by the map and the draft that was sent out. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak a public comment?
I'm online. This is Rachel Bassett. I live on Crestline Drive. Are you guys able to hear me?
We are. Go ahead.
Thank you. I actually also wanted to talk about the bike pedestrian plan, and I I also received it last week in the email and reviewed it, and I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the last speaker's comments about homeowners and property owners being involved. However, I feel like it's a really wonderful plan, and my family and I bike and walk all the time, all around town. And I've lived in town now. Well, I've lived in town 5 years, almost 6 years, but in the area 11 years, and I've just noticed how spotty everything is going around town right now. And you can be walking and then a sidewalk ends, or you can be biking and then all of a sudden there's nowhere to bike, and there's no shoulder, nowhere safe. And I actually was almost run off the road coming to vote a couple weeks ago when I was on my bike by a very rude, angry person who ended up in front of me in line voting. And he was yelling at me that I shouldn't be on the road. And I felt like telling him, well, then where am I supposed to be? And so I really encourage approval of this bike and pedestrian path, and I think there should be a way to help promote it so that, because right now it just often feels really unsafe to bike and walk, and for myself and for my children. And so I encourage strong consideration of the plan, and I was really impressed with the plan. I had been part of the data, the questioning and the drawing maps and everything last year, and I was really encouraged to see this as the outcome of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Rick.
I just wanted to inform the board and the public of 2 dates for the Viroqua Police Department. This Saturday, May 3rd, we are partnering with Good Shepherd Lutheran Church for a bike rodeo. So that is free for all the children. So if you guys have kids, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, it's an event that actually held many times up north. It's our first annual one here in the city of Viroqua. Possibly winning bikes. There'll be people there to help fix the bikes that they have. We have free bike helmets donated by the hospital. Accessories, we'll check the chains, we'll do that. And then they actually learn a lot of the pedestrian crossings, how to cross a road with safely and correctly. And then ultimately, yeah, just have fun and doing a little trail riding. Second date is actually May 17th, which is our Canine golf outing. So even if you don't golf, we have a lot of prizes that are coming through the PD right now that will be donated through silent auctions, Chinese auction. These funds that ultimately bought our second canine that we purchased here 5 months ago or so. It was at the beginning of the year. So these funds also pay for vet bills, anything else related to the dogs, and possibly training or water dishes and stuff like that. Also, part of our squad car that was, the heating package or door popper, so that if that car overheats, it will pop the door. So these are the funds that how we raise that money, so it's not on the taxpayers. So if you can come support the canine, that would be awesome. May 17th.
Thanks, Rick. Anyone else? Sonia, you gotta push the person.
I should.
There
know.
you go.
Sonia Newenhouse, 422 Hickory Street. I was on the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, and I know Sarah Granger worked super hard to hire the consultants to get this all organized. I thought the meetings and their work was fantastic. So I fully support the bicycle pedestrian plan. I do appreciate that people that are going to be directly affected when implementation happens, maybe are invited to a meeting or get a letter. There's a couple of things. One on page, one of the goals is to improve snow removal. And I'm always just saddened at sometimes our communication from the city is not as welcoming or friendly as it could be on mowing and shoveling, like if you're not following the ordinance. So there's an example on page 28 of what another community does. They have a really nice poster or mailer that they send out. And I understand that we're supposed to know to shovel within 24 hours, but at the same time, how do you really know that unless you hear it from your neighbor or you're very active and go to the website or read the ordinances? So if there's, and I also know it's expensive to send out letters. So maybe a letter, a nice looking flyer that's super welcoming says something, put in the tax roll. So you could combine maybe some information in a mailer that's already going out. And then there was another image that, because it's a very long document, that I really hope you see, page 44 on the plan. So when you do get a chance to really review it, if you go to page 44, you'll look at a future trail and shared street network. What's really neat, and I'm excited, and I know this could be a very long vision, but I know Kale is excited about it too, is that there's some thicker lines that's called Trail Search Corridor. So the ultimate goal, in addition to improving the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists, is to create a walking sort of trail all around town, but not necessarily a hard path trail. So just to imagine that you could walk from South Street or Decker Street, there's a lot of avenues that's not going through people's backyards, like going through a park and then connecting over through an easement, connecting through the Waldorf Communities woods, that would connect through the cemetery. Are you following me? That would connect to Prairie Wind. This is just one example, but there's other examples all around the city that would be just an amazing vision for Viroqua to be able to walk around. This is not for bicycles, by the way. It's walking on just natural paths. And it's not about asking the city to fund this. I just want to be super clear. It's more about talking to the people that own these lands and just having some signs and just asking, are you okay if people can walk through? Because this is a direct path. So I think with volunteer efforts in 15 years, this would be amazing. So thank you so much for your time and all the hard work. And remember, it's a plan. So even if some of you on the city council maybe are uncomfortable with one aspect of the plan, it's the word plan, right? So we're approving a plan. We're not approving and saying we are saying yes to doing every single thing here, because it depends on the money. It depends on time, resources. So really, there's no reason to say no to this plan.
Thanks, Anya. Anyone else?
Name's Chad Hoyam, 1070 DeFreeze Street. Last week at the Public Works Committee meeting, there was talk of not replacing a retiring street employee. I used to work in that department. I strongly urge you guys to not do that. That department is busy, steady. They are pulled in multiple directions. You guys all see it, the snow plowing, the patching of the streets, the street sweeping, cutting trees, all the maintenance. They're honestly, the frontline people that deal with the public. I'm not sure exactly the reasoning for this, but I guess, so like in 2020, there was a retirement, that person was replaced. In 21, there was a retirement, that person was replaced. In 24, there was a person who left for other employment, that person was replaced. I guess I'm not sure why this is, that we're not thinking of replacing him. And maybe it was just a thought and a conversation that's all it was. I don't know, but I guess I really hope it's not a budgetary thing, that we're trying to cut services or cut people to do the services because we're trying to save some money. I guess that's not where we need to be trying to save money. But I maybe it was just a one-off conversation, but I wanted to speak my opinion on it and go from there. So, thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Anybody else?
I promise to make this very short. I forgot one point, and that is I realize this is an expense, but possibly there could be a survey done. There are communities that shovel sidewalks and add assessment to the tax bill for that. So if there was a combined effort, it might be more affordable for people. Not more affordable, but an option really to consider. And it does not mean we have to shovel all the sidewalks as a city. We could shovel corridors, meaning certain sidewalks. And that is a recommendation in the plan. But I feel like maybe it could be even every single street where one side of the street, the sidewalks are shoveled by the city for a fee. I realize we don't have the money. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else online?
We have quite a few folks online. Does anybody online want to make a public comment?
All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which is a public hearing on application for zoning change of property located at 807 Railroad Avenue from B3 to R2. With that, we'll open the public hearing. You want to lead that off, Lori?
Okay, this is like the third time, I believe, coming back to you guys. Hopefully this is the final time. I know Brian and Michelle are eagerly hoping that this will go through. This is basically that area. I don't know if you have a map at all, Nate, if anybody is still unfamiliar where this is located off a railroad. However, this would be changing from a business 3 to a residential 2 zoning district. It has got areas that are contiguous to that, so it made perfect sense. So I have not heard anything from anyone since this, that there was any issues with it. So I'm hoping that you guys will, when we get to the next part on the ordinance, that you will say it's okay to go through. So,
Thanks.
but it is a public hearing in case there's anybody else in the audience that
Right.
still wants to talk about it.
Yes, yes. So with that, as Lori said, this is a public hearing. If any members of the public have anything they'd like to discuss regarding this particular agenda item, now would be the time. Yes, I don't think so. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and we'll close the public hearing, and we will move on to item number 6, which is review and approval of ordinance for zoning change at property located at 807 Railroad Avenue from B3 to R2. This will be the first reading.
Okay, so this is the final part of this. In order to do a rezoning, it has to go into our zoning code. So that's why it has to be done by ordinance. So as part of your packet, our attorneys put this together, making this rezoned into an R2 district. And it has basically the description from the property area of this area that would be rezoned. So if you so choose, I would recommend that you guys waive the second reading so we can move on for this. But then again, that is completely up to you guys, but we have seen this multiple times, and if there's any differences, I would hope we had had a time to address that up until now, so.
This is Cindy. I'll make a motion. We approve the ordinance for zoning change at property located 807 Railroad Avenue from B3 to R2 and waive the second reading.
This is AJ. I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Just for Brian's information, this has to be published before this is actually official. So I just want to let you know that.
Very good. Well, thank you. Item number 7 is review and approval of certified survey map for 807 Railroad Avenue, and this is coming from the Plan Commission.
Okay, and this is related to the same location. So this is just basically bringing this parcel into a separate parcel so that it can be put on the tax roll correctly, and he can actually get a mortgage on a piece of property that's severed out of that bigger piece.
This is Todd. I move to approve the certified survey map for 807 Railroad Avenue.
This is Seth. I'll second.
You got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Let's see here. Item number 8, operator license approvals.
Okay, we're going to be starting into a lot of alcohol stuff here, so bear with us. I have 3 of them that are be coming forward to you, and since we're in the time frame where we're going to be doing all the new renewals, I'm going to be making these with a 2026 expiration date along with the new renewals that'll be coming forward to public safety, just so we don't have to bring them forward multiple times. So with that, I have 3 operators. Jill Trevsvin is a renewal for Wild West Days. Naya Forcash is a new one for Aldi. And McKendra Hansen is a new one for Tangled Hickory. So all of those went to public safety and were approved. And there was no issues with their background checks. So just looking for your guys' approval on those.
This is AJ. Make a motion to approve the operator licenses.
This is Crystal. I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 9, review and approval of agent change for Quick Trip South.
Okay, I received a notification from Quick Trip South that they have, as of April 18th, there's a new manager, Rudy Matejek, that's taking over for that store. So this would be just to continue until the end of this June 30th, 2025. And it would be on a renewal after that. So this one went to public safety. They recommended forwarding it to you guys for your approval. And also background check came back okay.
Cindy, make a motion, we approve the agent change for Quick Trip South.
John, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That motion passes. Item number 10, review and approval of temporary Class B beer license application for Fourth Stream for Live in Viroqua events in May through August of 2025.
Okay, so this again went to public safety. The dates are May 24th, June 7th, June 21st, July 5th, July 19th, August 2nd, August 16th, and August 30th, all between 5 and 9 p.m. on West Court Street for the Live in Viroqua events. And again, they approved it and sent it forward for your guys' approval.
Make a motion, we approve the temporary Class B license for Fourth Stream for Live in Viroqua events, May through August 2025.
Steve, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 11, review and approval of temporary Class B beer license for Viroqua Legion Baseball for events June through July 2025 at the Park Bowl concession stand.
Okay, again, this went to public safety. The dates for them are June 5th through 6th, 11th through 12, 14 and 15, 19, 20 to 22, 24 to 26, 28 to 29. Those are all in June, and then July 3rd through the 14th, 17th through the 21st, and the 23rd through the 28th. Their hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So again, they forwarded it from public safety with their approval.
This is AJ. Move approval of the temporary Class B beer license for the Viroqua Legion baseball events from June to July.
This is Seth. I'd second that motion.
Hey, you got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 12, review and approval of temporary Class B beer license for Viroqua Chamber Beer Walk on May 31st, 2025.
Okay, this also went to public safety. The hours of operation for the beer walk are 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. There are several locations that I will list them all. However, the ones that currently have a license do not need to be part of this temporary one, but each location will have to have this notice put up at their location and have an operator that went through the course or has a license. So the locations are Hotel Fortney, Viroqua Public Market, Pacifico, Nelson's Ag Center, the Gray Duck, Lovely Boutique, Noble Rhine, the McIntosh Memorial Library, People's State Bank, Metaphysical Graffiti, Bad Axe Music, Driftless Books and Music, Fraternal Order of Eagles, the Tangled Hickory, WDRT Driftless Radio, Driftless Vibe, Driftless Angler, Valley Stewardship Network, Viva Gallery, Cheese Corner, the Woolly Bear Tap House, Vine Host, Temple Theater, and the VFW. And again, they approved it at Public Safety for you to consider.
Thank you. All right, so
This is Todd. I'll make a motion to approve the temporary Class B beer license for the Viroqua Chamber Beer Walk on May 31st, 2025.
This is Emma, and I second that motion.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions?
I've made a comment. That's a lot of beer.
That is a lot of beer.
$40, you get all.
It was longer. I did
Okay.
tell them to kind of scale it back a little bit, so.
Right. So we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 13, review and approval of special event permit by Cheese Corner, Bark for Cheese Fest on June 28th, 2025.
So the special event application that is in front of you is a new event. As you'll recall, only new events are coming forward to this council for approval. If it's a recurring event, it's reviewed by the relevant department staff. And unless there's some matter that they feel needs to rise to a decision by this council, we just approve it. So that's just a quick reminder on how the process works. This particular event, as you can see here, is an event that's taking place outside of the Cheese Corner. The site plan is the most important element, as the one that was sent as part of your packet outlines that East South Street between Center and Main would be closed. In discussion with our street department, Director of Public Works, as well as the police chief, we identified that as being a bad idea, given that the light is there, that it's a route to the hospital, and that new traffic patterns are certainly going to make South Street more utilized. We encourage the event planners to move the event off the street so that we didn't have to close South Street. So the updated site plan, I think, was sent in your packet as a follow-up, and that's outlined now here, where they're utilizing in partnership with Gunderson Vernon Memorial Hospital, as soon as I can move this, their properties and getting stuff off South Street, and therefore not having to close it. So this project has evolved to the point where essentially it doesn't need a special event permit, because they're not asking for use of city property. They're not asking us to shut down streets or to make public safety accommodations for them. It will essentially be a community event, but that's taken care of on private property. So it was on your packet because, again, it only dawned on me, I think Monday or Friday, that this no longer is a special event item. And so this is just more for your information at this point. I did talk to Samantha, who's a representative from the Cheese Corner, wonderful to work with, and she's been comfortable with this approach. So no action necessary at this point for this particular agenda item.
Great. Thank you. All right, then, moving on to item number 14 is reappointment of Sherry Jacobson to the Viroqua Housing Authority for a 5-year term expiring on June 1st, 2030. I did not see Sherry here, but she's a reappointment, so I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or questions. If not, we'd look for a motion to approve.
This letter was included as part of your packet, just to remind everybody regarding Sherry.
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve the reappointment of Sherry Jacobson to the Viroqua Housing Authority for a 5-year term expiring June 1, 2030.
This is Emma, and I second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 15, discussion with possible action on request for one-time contribution to Vernon County Historical Society project. And this was tabled from the 4/8/25 meeting.
Yes. So just as a reminder to everybody, and I think some of you may have been missing for that meeting, the Vernon County Historical Society came to the city council and requested $5,000 to go towards their HVAC capital project. At the time, I had not had a ton of time to look at possibilities or give options to this council. So I had asked the council to sort of delay the decision to give me time. After that, I reached out to Cindy, who's the chair of the Viroqua Historic Preservation Commission, and sort of noted to her that if there was money to come from the city, the most logical and appropriate place for that money to come from would be the Historical Preservation Commission, who does receive some modest funds every year to support historic preservation work in the city. And so, Cindy, I don't know if you want to jump in from there and sort of.
Yeah, we discussed it at the last commission meeting and decided to donate 2,000. We couldn't afford to donate 5,000, but we decided to donate 2,000 towards the HVAC system.
Wonderful.
So from that point, I did follow up with Gail Free, who was the representative for the Historical Society and spoke to us at the last meeting, and just sort of noted to him, like, Gail, you know, I know you're probably not happy with 2 of the 5,000 you asked for, but frankly, and I'll say this to the council as well, there's not money just laying around. There's not another $3,000, $5,000 just laying around. We budget very strictly. Anybody who's been on the budget team, the council members, department heads know, like, every $1,000 is important to the functioning of Parks and Rec, the library, the police department, whatever. And so he did mention that, you know, that's fine. He's appreciative of the $2,000 for now, but he would like to come back during budget time and make a follow-up request. And I said, that's very appropriate for you to do. I can't make promises. Nobody's, you know, gonna, he wasn't asking for anybody to pre-approve that at this council meeting. And I certainly recommend we do that. I think we need to let the budget process play out to see how we want to prioritize limited funds. But that's essentially what I have for you tonight is an update. But if you would like to give any other direction, please let me know.
Thanks, Nate. Does anybody have any thoughts for Nate on that? Otherwise, we can just proceed with the plan as Nate laid out. All right. Moving right along, item number 16, discussion with possible action on project plan for 321 Southeast Avenue. This is Aaron Parker's plan, and this is coming from the Plan Commission.
Okay, I'll cue this up. Aaron Parker's here with us today. Some time ago, for those of you who have been on, maybe there's been a lot of action in the city. And so one of the pieces of property that came into our possession was what's known as the old hospital property. It's over on 321 Southeast Avenue. It's about a 0.6 acre parcel. It is a vacant parcel at this point. The building that was on it was demolished through a raise order by the city, and through working with the county, it came back to us. We put out an RFP over a year ago at this point to the community to say any developers who were interested in purchasing the land and developing on it, please let us know. That RFP ran through the city, and from that we got 3 proposals. Chief Burrows and I reviewed them, and there were some good things to be looked at, but part of what we needed to identify is, what are we looking for, right? Like, what type of project are we looking for? And to that, we asked Plan Commission to sort of weigh in, right? And particularly the question we asked is, what kind of development are we looking for that would be a good fit for that neighborhood and the existing conditions of that neighborhood? I think that was of high import to both the commission and myself, and as well as Chief Burrows. And so that has gone back and forth in Plan Commission over the course of the last 3 months with multiple presentations by developers, including Aaron Parker. And from that emerged sort of the plan that was shared with you through your council packet. Okay. What's important to know is that this is a concept plan. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but there's no hard engineered plans. There's nothing that's been heavily designed. It's to give you a taste of sort of the intention, the concept, right? Nor have we talked about anything related to what is the deal? How much are we selling the land for? What is the terms of the deal? That stuff has not been discussed yet. Really what we're here to do is, from time to time when we do these development projects, before myself or the developer invest more time and money and effort into bringing it to construction documents, we want to make sure we're on the right path by the council, because we would hate to spend all that time, effort, and energy to deliver something that's dead on arrival and we didn't know it. So that's sort of the scope of the conversation tonight is this concept plan in alignment with what you would like to see and what you would be willing to sell the land for. Again, the details of the sale are and somewhat secondary to the outcome of what the property turns into. So before I turn over to Aaron, is there any questions about any of the items I just ran through? Okay. And if you think of something, you can always bring it up later. Aaron, I'm going to go ahead and bring up your proposal then, if that's fine. I'll just need 1 second. And just let me know when you would like me to.
You can go to the next one. Yeah. Hi, I'm Aaron Parker. We live at 111 North Lincoln, and I'm an architect and an urban designer and a developer and so forth. Anyway, tonight I'd like to present the East Avenue proposal and talk about a few things. One, I want to discuss the character of the neighborhood and discuss the broader context of growth in Viroqua and why this development is one piece of that that's important. And then I'll review the proposal itself and respond to questions.
Aaron, if you can just volume just a little higher for me.
Oh. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. When we first talked about doing this, it was suggested that this would be done as a PUD. So I went and read the zoning code about what that means. And so you'll, in quotes on a number of these slides, you'll see the language used in the zoning code. One related to neighborhood character is to assure compatibility with surrounding land uses and neighborhood character. The property, can you point to where it's this slide? When I save it to a PDF, it doesn't show up.
Oh, sure, because it's the layer.
Because there was a little green dot in the on the left hand. Yeah, that's the property. And the thing that's interesting about it is that in the original, if you zoom back out again to the full slide, there we go. On the left is the Sanborn map from 1911, which is about 50 years after the founding, and you can see the limits of what Viroqua was. It's bounded by Western Avenue on the west, East Avenue on the east, South Street on the south, etc. And this property is just on the east side of East Avenue. And it's really interesting to note that if you go up to where Decker is, you can see that Decker runs straight across, right there, within the limits of the old city. And as soon as it crosses those West Avenue and East Avenue, it loses the grid. And if you think about, the block sizes and the lot sizes inside that that square, they are very consistent. But outside the square, they go nuts. And you can look at Terhune and between Terhune and Jefferson, that block, which is just north of the block we're talking about, where it starts as Terhune at one end and winds up as Hillcrest on the other. It's so there was a certain orderliness to how we started, and then we kind of improvised. Next, please. So the subject property is, can we get the whole slide on the
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the other way. The property is for that whole neighborhood, in fact, is zoned R2, and which, okay, anyway, next slide. Why don't we just keep zipping through this here? So as I was just saying, the normal size for a lot is inside the original city is 50-foot minimum width. This property on the right of East Avenue is 75 by 232 feet. It's a very large lot. The standard lot is 50 by about 130. So this is like, even with the 20 by 90 parcel that we're carving out of that rectangle to convey to the Tunks who live in just off the lower right corner there. They're interested in expanding their property, and we've agreed to do that. Even with that, this property is 2.4 times bigger than a standard lot, and so you actually can put a lot more density on this lot. Can you shrink that down a little bit smaller? No, other way.
Oh, yep, you want the full screen.
Yeah, the whole screen. There we go. Oops. Okay, next slide. And you can skip this one too. Okay, so now I want to talk about the broader context of growth in Viroqua, talking about neighborhoods and also about the houses that we live in. Next slide, please. Again, the PUD says exceptional quality community designs that preserve or enhance critical environmental resources. If we go outside of the standard, the developed area in town, the cost of infrastructure always has to be figured into the city's calculations, providing sanitary sewer and streets and sidewalks and curb and gutter and storm sewer and parks and lighting and fresh water and electricity and internet and gas, police and fire protection, garbage and recycling. In central areas that are already served, higher density area will cost the city and the community significantly less per dwelling unit than installing new infrastructure and utility extensions to formerly productive farmland converted to subdivisions. And we can create a balanced strategy that effectively balances demand, budget, and quality of life in and around Viroqua and maintains the driftless character of place. Next slide. Next slide. Another way of saying that is if we want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. Which was a quote from Tomasi di Lampedusa's book, The Leopard, that I read years ago, and that popped into my head when I was doing the second planning commission meeting. So if we continue to build as we have in the past, and if we maintain the land use and development regulations we have now, we will see sprawl development, loss of farmland, less efficient economy and use of land, higher taxes to increase due to increased infrastructure costs, worse housing affordability relative to our household budget. One aspect of that is for every the maintenance and costs of owning each car you own for the United States, and I double checked it for Vernon County just to be sure, for every car exclusive of debt service is $10,000 per household per car. And if you can live with one less car in a central area where you can, where you may work and get services, that is a real boost to affordability. And so that's an important issue. So I think in order to make this happen, we will be expanding, of course. We have to implement a both and approach to how and where we live and grow in Viroqua. And that means well thought out, local, community-driven expansion, not sprawl, and infill development, which this is an example of, in existing neighborhoods. And this project is an example of that. Next slide, please. So now I want to talk a little bit about housing. Our self-image and the values we find desirable in our housing still tilt towards the rural ideal of the little house as a pavilion on a piece of land, the little house on the prairie. And the characteristics listed down below are sort of a way of talking about and expressing that ownership of land is the same as American self-determination. Long views, visual privacy, acoustical privacy, individual identity from the street, direct access to outdoors from the house, private outdoor space related to private indoor space, and direct sunlight to the house. Next slide, please. So we took the little house on the prairie and we moved it into town, and it became the suburban model despite the smaller lot size, and it doesn't really behave the way the little house on the prairie does. Next slide. Again, the PUD says assure compatibility with surrounding land uses and neighborhood character. These are examples of existing houses on South Street and East Avenue that vary in size from about 450 feet up to about 1,250. And most, if not all of those houses were built before there was a zoning code. Next slide. So I don't know, those who kind of don't like apartment buildings, I don't think that either of these is appropriate to this neighborhood. But we don't have to build that way. And that was part of the approach I wanted to take, is what really is going to fit in this neighborhood. Next slide. I've been an architect for a long time and an urban designer, and I have a vision of how things could be. And I kind of grew tired of working for developers whose primary goal was maximizing their return on investment. And I thought I could deliver better housing and better towns and cities by becoming a developer myself. So that's what I'm doing. I don't think that new development on the right, plopped down next to a regular house, is appropriate. The picture on the left goes to this question of, private outdoor space related to private indoor space. And this is one of those developer models where those are two townhomes. There's Weber in front of each of those doors. And those people don't have privacy from one another if they want to have a little family barbecue. And so, how do we actually do this? And the kids, can play in the parking lot, I suppose, but that's not my idea of a good time either. Next slide, please. So one of the comments made during one of the planning commission hearings was, we want big backyards. And my question is, what is it about backyards that we actually value? The greenery, the quiet, the privacy, a sense of solitude or togetherness with family? Is it possible to deliver all of those valued characteristics in a more intimate backyard? And this is an example of that kind of thing. This is actually three houses put together where each one has privacy and private outdoor space related directly to private indoor space. Next slide. I've done this kind of work on my own projects. This is a project in Minneapolis that I was the architect for, and actually did the master planning for the city for, and the county for as well, extending the Minneapolis parkway system north to the north property line of the city. Looking at the neighborhood, I developed I looked at Charleston, South Carolina for their side yard houses, and adapted that model to a northern climate, where you can see in the middle slide there the courtyard and enclosed by the house and the garage, the very private and pretty large courtyard. The photo on the left shows that, and you can see the house right next door where the windows are high to let ventilation in, but block the view so that that yard is private from the neighbors as well. And those are photographs of the bottom of that slide shows all the different the different look from the street for each of those houses. Next slide, please. So that was one way of creating private outdoor space next to private indoor space and bringing us closer to the little house on the prairie. The PUD also says incorporate creative design in the layout of buildings, open space, and circulation. This was the original submission, which was an 8-unit development. The massing and setbacks and characteristics of the proposed structure fronting. There's a fourplex on East Avenue, and then a pair of duplexes behind that. The fourplex has the same. Next slide. Well, actually, yeah, go ahead to the next slide, because we're not doing this one anymore. That's how each of the units lays out. The massing is similar in dimension and is compatible to the houses flanking the property. Yeah, next slide. If we were going with standard zoning instead of a PUD, this design conforms to all of the requirements, including permitted uses. Multifamily dwellings not exceeding 4 units are permitted as of right, but you need to do a conditional use if you're going to do more than 4 units. So we would do this either as a conditional use, requiring a conditional use permit, or as a PUD. Next slide. So this is the current proposal. Again, the same fourplex on the street. There's a 3-hour fire separation between the two pair of duplexes in that building, so that we don't need to put fire sprinklers in, which is cost savings. And then there are a couple of 1-bedrooms along the south property line and a 3-bedroom in the at the east end of the property. There is 1 car per dwelling unit for each for each unit. Next slide. Whoa. Yeah, so this is what the development, I mean, again, it's not designed, but this is the massing that we would be talking about, and you can see that the scale and character of the building is compatible with the neighboring houses. Next slide. And this is the view from South Street that was done for the 8-unit development, but with the 7-unit development, it's not that different. And so, next slide. That's it. Questions?
That last slide, I wasn't sure what I was looking at, what angle, the bottom right one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's because it's kind of a panorama. So it's standing on South Street and actually on the sidewalk, and it's a panorama. So you're actually getting a broader view than you would otherwise. But you can see that there's a hedge along the edge of the property, which you can see in the upper left-hand drawing. You can see where those trees are right along the property line. So what would be useful for us to move forward on this is approval that we proceed to due diligence period where we really sort of flesh it out and do the design, run the numbers for economics and so forth, and really figure out what we need so that we can come back and do another presentation talking about what we're proposing in greater detail.
Thank you. Questions? Does anybody? Todd?
Who would be the owner of the properties?
That's a good question. Because it's a single parcel, I see this. We would develop the property, and then the units would be sold off as a cooperative, not a condominium, because I think that's actually the appropriate ownership model for this side of town.
Other questions? Nate, do you have a?
So I was just going to note for clarity here is that this particular site plan is the concept plan that you are forwarding here tonight based off of recommendations from the Plan Commission and just feedback you received from the public who attended those Plan Commission. And one of the things that Aaron spoke to earlier is there's an 80 by 20 foot.
90.
Is that 90?
It isn't there, but it will be.
Yeah, 20 by 90 section of land that the Plan Commission was recommending go to the Tunks, Carrie and Kurt Tunks, who are the property owners back here. They had submitted a proposal as part of this process for additional land to help with having a backyard because their buildings come real close to their property lines. And previously they were looking at the backyard, the big backyard of the old hospital. And so they just want to maintain some privacy and green space for themselves. And then also, I think there was some grading and stormwater issues that they wanted to address with the additional property as well. So Aaron accommodated for that within his proposal. And again, what you're looking at is 7 units, which was a key. That was sort of the recommendation from the Plan Commission as a way of compromising, is to get it down from 8 to 7. I will note that, and it's important to note, is that there was a petition, and you all received the petition some weeks ago. This was probably almost 3 weeks now, from some of the neighboring property owners, and it also included some property owners who were on the other side of town and who were against the project, and not only against Aaron's project necessarily, but didn't want to see multi-family on this. They had specifically asked for single family on this lot. They wanted the property actually be rezoned to a single family development. And if you need a reminder, I can bring that up. I don't know if any of those individuals are here tonight or online, but I do want to just bring up the feedback, because I think the council as well as the Planning Commission always does a good job of wanting to hear from the voices of the neighbors when they're making these kind of decisions. So if you would like to hear that, but I just want to make sure that I reminded you of that petition that you received.
Is it okay if I asked a question? I was just thinking about, I was trying to place it, but I think it's the corner of Court and Terhune, and then Court and South. There's 2 like larger multiplex buildings that are in that general neighborhood. So they're multi-units, probably equivalent to like 3 or 4. Or it's a big gray house. I'm assuming that there's multiple units in it. It's on the corner of South and Court. Am I thinking that?
Those are.
Yeah. It's just a little bit east of the hospital. we'll have to go walk and look at, but it's like, it's 2 or 3 blocks away from this area. But am I curious in regards to the question around like a multi-family versus just a single unit? Did you have a chance to talk to them about specifically what the concern was? You know, is it the dimension of it? Is it the traffic? Is it, I think it's a lot of things, but I personally, having like coming from a city where there was a lot of sort of revitalization or gentrification of like the neighborhood I grew up in, I think this is a really good example of not imposing too much, because sometimes people put really, you could have a single family unit and it could be huge or something. So I appreciate that. But I was just curious if you talked to them.
Well, on the issue of multifamily, if everything in this neighborhood was single family, it would be about 6 units to the acre. And walking around over the last year or so, and I walk my dogs through here all the time and stuff too. So I would say that the density in this area is closer to 7 to 8 units to the acre, because there are a lot of duplexes. There are a number of fourplexes. There are even a few triplexes, and then there's one house over on Rusk that had, I think, 8 units in it until Chief Burroughs shut down 2 of those because they were not conforming. So that's a 6-unit dwelling, and
And I apologize because I was thinking about Rusk. It's like Rusk and Terhune and Rusk and South, but yeah, down Rusk, there's a whole bunch of multi-family units. Yeah.
that there is a certain amount of multifamily even in buildings that were designed as single family houses. And what I attempted to do with this design is again deliver those characteristics that I itemized related to the Little House on the Prairie in a smaller, tighter, less costly version, so it would be accessible, further down the income scale. Not that this is affordable housing, because it's new construction. And even last year, we were looking at something between $200 and $250 a square foot, which does not conform with standard affordable housing based on AMI. So, yes.
I think you're pointing out that the lot is about twice the size of the normal lots was interesting.
2.5 times.
2.5 times the size. I think that the petitions were talking about more parking, weren't they? Parking problems was one of the
Yeah,
things.
so that's what I
There's
had
really-
pulled up to sort of answer Emma's question. You can see in the 4th paragraph here, well, maybe the 3rd and 4th paragraph here, the things that they talk about are possible depreciation of property values for the surrounding single-family homes, heightened traffic flow and on-street parking. That was a theme that came out at, I think, the first Plan Commission meeting, where quite a few people were worried about just how much congestion and traffic and things like that they felt would occur on that street. And again, I think the theme here is density, right? That it's not so much the character of the development or anything else like that. It's just the number of units that were on the lot. It seems to be what people were opposed to, at least the ones who signed this.
Of course, you said each dwelling would have 1 parking spot
That's correct.
on the property.
On the property.
Not on the street. And I think it's interesting how the privacy, they're going to have more privacy in your development than they would if they just had a house plopped down there. Unless they had a lot of hedges or something built around. But I think the people who did this petition maybe they were thinking more of a apartment building, even the density part anyway, and a lot of parked cars and stuff. I don't know.
Is it appropriate for me to respond to the issues of parking and traffic?
Sure.
I don't have.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
East Avenue is, South East Avenue is 4 blocks long. It goes from the cemetery at, where it turns at Hickory at the south, and it ends at Jefferson at the north. So it's not exactly a through street. It has a 60-foot right-of-way with a 35-foot wide carriageway. Now, and so, I mean, it's not really a through street. We live on Lincoln Avenue, which has a 40-foot right-of-way, and a 24-foot width. You can't park on both sides of the street there because two cars, and if you have a car parked on one side of the street, two cars still cannot pass one another. You have to stop and let the other guy go before you go. As you know, Lincoln goes from Decker to South Street and is a heavily traveled cut through. There is a lot more traffic on this 40-foot wide right-of-way, which includes the sidewalks, the boulevard, the curb and gutter, and the carriageway. There's a lot more traffic on Lincoln, and, you know, I mean, yeah, we moved from a city, but, you know, it's not a huge deal for us.
Thank you. So Nate, are you looking for kind of that thought here to encourage moving forward, or idea? What exactly are you wanting from the council?
Yeah, I think what myself, Chief Burrows, and Aaron are looking for is just the council's general thoughts on the proposal, the concept plan that has been proposed at this time, so that we know, are there any hard sticking points? What do you like? What do you not like about it? And generally, if this came back and the financials worked and Aaron could make it go, and some of the other variables that come in whenever we make development agreement deals for city-owned land, if all those check out, is this general plan something that you would be in favor of approving down the line? Again, just I would call this a preliminary go-ahead to continue to work on the project, or if there's anything that's going to hold us up, let it be known now so that we don't invest a ton of additional time before correcting those red flags or issues. Okay.
So it's probably worth noting to the council, this came through Plan Commission twice, correct? I mean, it was the initial RFP review, and then once that was selected.
It came to Plan Commission for one review. There was feedback given. All the developers were encouraged, after hearing the feedback from the community and the questions from the Plan Commission, to change their plans if they wished, if they felt it was appropriate, and resubmit their plans. They were reviewed again, and the Plan Commission, after reviewing those amended plans, recommended Aaron's plan forward to the council for consideration and receiving a preliminary approval here.
Right. And that was my point. I think the Plan Commission spent a lot of time looking at different options, and Aaron had a few different options himself. And I think through all that process, this was chosen to be a plan that I think would work. We heard from, of course, we saw the petitions, but we did have the Tunks come, and they spoke to the Plan Commission in favor of the project, and they're certainly directly impacted by this. So it was nice to have somebody come and talk directly to us that way. So just so the council's aware of that. Go ahead, Crystal.
Well, this is over in my hood, and it is, and I walk, and I have a car that I leave sit in the driveway more than not, because you can get anywhere you need to go within 6 blocks. So that was one of my concerns too, was how they were going to work with parking in one unit or one vehicle per unit. But then I'm thinking, I live there, and that I've got one sitting in the driveway and one that gets used. So I understand that. I also really wanted to address the scale and how appropriate it is for that neighborhood. I did a little drawing from one of yours, Aaron, of the lot that this proposed development would go on, and then the lot directly south. There's 2 lots there. There's the same number of buildings. There's a large house, a garage, and a smaller house on the same size lot. It's actually a little bit smaller. than what would go in there. And so my first reaction was it was too crowded, but then when I looked at it, it isn't. I mean, when you look at it, it's very similar to what's already there. It's just placed differently. And so I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Other thoughts, questions? No?
I think just for me, I'd like to learn as you develop it, like I support it, but just would like to learn more, a little bit more about the co-op model that you're thinking about. I think it's really interesting. There's not a lot of examples of it in Viroqua, but I've seen it be successful in other cities. And the other thing I just want to say is a vote of confidence, like housing is an issue, but smaller units are a good opportunity for people to purchase a home that otherwise might be prohibitive, because Viroqua does have a lot of large homes, and I sort of shudder every time a small home is bought and then it's huge, because some people are not looking for big homes. So thank you for thinking of that.
I would echo that thought from Emma, that it is nice to see the concept of utilizing that space with housing that can be not grandiose and utilize the space for that neighborhood. So I like it.
Yeah, I just remember the old hospital being there, and it was not small. So yeah, I think that I like your concept to fit that, the privacy element, along with, you know, that many different dwellings, and it doesn't seem or feel, from a drawing at least, to be out of character with the neighborhood.
Good. Do you want some sort of a vote, Nate, or are you good with
Motion
just
would be great. I think
Perfect.
that would give me confidence in continuing to invest time on this.
Sure. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion?
This is Seth. I would make a motion that we approve moving forward with the development of the property with Aaron Parker's plan in mind. I don't know if I need to mention the actual address again because I'm forgetting it, but to move forward with the development.
This is AJ. I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Thanks, Aaron. All right. Item number 17, update on Eckhart Playground project with possible action.
So a little background, you guys remember, we started beginning of the year working with Leathers, more of a natural playground. But over the time, we are currently working to end that agreement. We're in discussions still with them on getting out of their contract. We'll have more information, hopefully at the next council meeting. Give you a little background. We started with 5 different companies. Last week, we met with the final 2 that the leadership team wanted to approve on, look at a little bit more. We had 45-minute discussions with each one of them. This is Lee Burke Playgrounds out of, I think it's Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. All their equipment is made in Wisconsin. And they're the Wisconsin rep for Burke. So, and the other company was Copan. That was their overseas company, but have businesses in their plant. One of their plants is in Austin, Texas. So after reviewing both of them, based on what we wanted from Leathers, we have decided, and I would like recommendation and approval from you guys to continue to move forward with Burke. This gave us the most design that we were looking for from Leathers. We wanted the connectability, different ways to get to different things. If you look closely on that, and hopefully you did, there's multiple ways to get to different things on the 5 to 12 playground. There's not one way to do it. There's multiple. And that's, I think, again, that's what our current playground is, I think that's why everybody loves it. There's so many different ways to get around. So that's, as a leadership team, that's what we're going for. We knew after Leathers, we couldn't get with the wood structure because there's not many companies out there that even provide wood. So we knew we had to go with a more metal type playground, but we still wanted that different connectability. Also, this one had a lot more ADA accessibilities. You can kind of see on, that's a hard one, but a person in a wheelchair could get up to different areas at that playground and be able to climb. You're going all over the place now. So right there, if you come in that entrance and take a hard right, wheelchair can go up to that first one. There's playability there. They can keep going and take another right, and there's a wheelchair swing right there. Or they can probably, I'm not sure on this one, but then they could park there, climb up that, and go down the slide, continue to do that, or they could continue to climb up and actually get to the 14-foot slide and climb down through the nets if they wanted to. So again, we just thought this one had more accessibility for all kids. One thing I want to note, this is not the final design. We're hoping the playground we like, but what we put out to the 5 different companies was put it on the current footprint with an area where the trees were. You'll also note the trees are not on here just to show the playground. I know that's a hot topic, and we'll do what we can do to look at the trees and build around it. But again, the tree board did give us approval if needed with construction to remove some of those trees. But like I said, we'll look to, as we continue with Burke and they come out and look at the site plans and see how we can move around. Cause again, I do like the trees, but my number one priority is the safety of the kids playing on that playground. And with those older trees, you never know what could happen. So again, I'm looking for approval to continue with Burke as we look to develop this playground, knowing that this is not the final design. Hopefully most of it is, but we still got to continue to work with them.
Thanks, Gil. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, I was just going to say a point of clarification. Kale brought up the Leathers contract, right? And with Leathers, we signed a contract ahead of time for design services. With all of these companies that the steering committee worked with on this sort of second round, including Lee Burke, there is not a fee for design services, right? They basically will work with us to design, and they basically make their money back when they sell it to us. So we're not asking for a dollar amount to be used at this point. I think what you're asking, Kale, is this particular company and their particular style of what they can deliver, is it in line with what you're wanting to see? Similar to what we just talked about, Aaron, is this generally, are we on the right track here enough for us to continue down this path? Anything else? Did I get that right? Okay.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Sorry. I'm still concerned about shade, and I understand the issue with the trees, but is there a substitute that we could use to provide shade in place of trees for the safety of families that are there?
In regards to that question, are you looking at, there's lots of different shade aspects that you can put on a playground. Yes, we could go that route.
Is Angie Lawrence here?
Angie's not, Kim is.
We talked about this at Park and Rec and extensively about the trees, and I was assured that the committee also has talked extensively about the trees because I'm a tree hugger, I admit. But to your thing, she was saying that it might be moved a little bit. It's possible to save some trees and to provide some shade. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about this, because I think the trees make this park. So I certainly don't want to cut down any that we don't have to. And shade would be very nice because it gets really hot at a playground. Yeah.
Yeah, the trees are not depicted on this. There's multiple trees around there. This was just to give us a view of what could happen. Again, they need to come back, walk through it with me, you know, look at the site plan and see where we can move and put things. So this is just a concept drawing.
Very good. Anything else? Probably be looking for a motion to move forward with work. Yes.
Mrs. Todd, I make a motion to move forward with the Eckhart Park with Lee Burke.
This is Emma and I second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to item number 18 is discussion with possible action on bike and pedestrian plan. And I would think that right now would be a great time to take a break, and I'll apologize to everybody that's here, but I think this will probably be a longer discussion, and we've been here an hour and a half, so we'll take a quick 5-10 minute break and then we'll come back. Go. All right, we are all back. So with that, we'll move back to item number 18, which is discussion with possible action on the bike and pedestrian plan.
All right. Well, I'm so glad there's so much excitement about the bike and pedestrian plan. People are talking about it, which is great because this has been something we've been working on for a really long time. And this was started in 2023. And when I say started, I wasn't doing this alone, obviously. So we have Sean Murphy Lopez from Tool Design. He's also online and he was working for the consultant that created the plan. And so he can jump in when needed, but I'm going to just start the conversation. So like I mentioned, this is something that we started back in 2023, and it was something that we worked with the Public Works Committee, made the selection on a number of different proposals for the bike and pedestrian plan consultant, and Tool Design was selected. Sean lives in the area, so it's a really nice connection, and he had given me some ideas way back when on Rock Avenue about how to approach some things. So it was nice to work with him in a formal capacity. And so why did we even do this, right? I mean, what was the plan for, right? So one of the things that became very apparent is there was a lot of interest in having bike and pedestrian accommodation. And in order to do that, we needed to have some sort of vision about where we're putting. So what would often happen is we would have a reconstruction project and we would start talking about bike and pedestrian facilities. And as we have seen, that usually is of interest to the adjacent property owners. And so we'd have some of these conversations. And then the question would be like, well, why not just put it the next block over, right? And so it was really important for us to have an idea of like, where is the need and where do we want to put it? So that was one of the big drivers for me, was to have some sort of guidance and some sort of understanding that we didn't just look at this one project, looked at the city as a whole and tried to understand what the most sense about where we would need facilities. So as we go through it, you'll see, a large part of it is just trying to find need where it makes sense. And then the other part of this is that as you look at the plan, you can tell there are tons of things, tons of work that we could do. And as you also know, we have a very small pot of money always to do any of this work, right? And so in looking at a lot of the grant programs that were out there for this kind of thing, they all wanted a plan. They all want to make sure that like what we're doing is something that we've looked at holistically as a city and said, yeah, this is where we are looking for things. So I think that's, sort of like the background of why. There was a lot of front end work in that early time, 2023, 2024, where we made a lot of connections with the public and we're looking for input. And so that is, I would say a large part of the plan. You can see the front end of it, all of the community interactions, but also there's that whole community engagement like document on its own that I think is actually really helpful to look at. Like this is the feedback that people have given the city about what they're looking for. And it was also really helpful for me because when you're looking at bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, like you want it to be used. You want it to be a useful service, and knowing what people like and what they prefer is really important. So we took all of that feedback. We had a steering committee that we worked with, and that's where we started creating the first part of it, which is like the goals and the strategies and the actions. And so I can pull the plan up. I don't want to get too much into the parts that we already did the other day, right? Because we had this committee of a whole where we went through the entire plan in a fair amount of detail. But the summary of what comes out of it is like, what are our goals and what are our strategies? And I am going to just give a couple highlights that I thought were important. Let's see if I've got you got the plan up. All right. So
Did you find those street urchins, those little kids somewhere running around wild?
you'd be surprised how many of them are my children when
Yeah,
they
they
were
look kind of
younger. And I don't know
familiar,
how
yeah.
that happened because the entire committee shared photos, but it seemed like they were the good ones where they had like good close-ups of kids that were doing exactly this in Viroqua. Surprise, surprise. So one of the goals that we had ended up having like 3 main goals, and the A goal was expand and better connect bicycling and walking network. And so then through that, we have the strategies, and then we break down into actions. The same sort of thing, we have our goal B, which I'm realizing now, I don't know that I've had C in here. Maintaining the basic walking and bicycling network. Oops. Right, so we're looking at what we already have and how we're taking care of it and how it's available for the people of the city to use. And then now I'm realizing I don't think I had C on here, which I can go to the plan real quick and look to see where we are at here. Sorry. There we go. And then C, of course, is the implement. Oops, I'm not sharing that. Let's try this again. Depends on how I share. All right, so then, of course, oops, there you go. Okay, so C is the implementation of the plan, which seems to be where a lot of people have been commenting on. So I just wanted to go through the idea that, this plan is a plan, right? It is not an engineering document. It doesn't explicitly say that the city will put a sidewalk on this side of the street and we're going to do it regardless of any input or funding, right? So like, this is a part of us identifying the areas that are most important. And as has mentioned, you can tell that like, it's something that we certainly need to look at from a high level view because it does have a lot of impact on the people that are adjacent. And we want to make sure we're making those good choices. So I guess that's my lead into it. Sorry, it's hard to do with my. Is that better? Okay. So I'm open to answering questions about it, but I think I just wanted to preface like how we got here, why we're talking about it, and like how we'll use it, right? So, a good example is like even just like the first projects, right? We're going through and we're looking at areas based on priorities, such as like, is it close to a school? Is there any accommodations? The variety of things, feasibility, that kind of thing. And then, we're making some recommendations on areas. There's also a whole bunch of stuff related to sidewalk maintenance and whatnot. And again, this is like a document that provides us tools and how we're going to move forward to make a better bicycle and pedestrian network. So I'm happy to answer questions. I see if Sean wants to jump in at all and share anything as well. But we are asking for adoption of the plan, and that we would be using when we're looking at planning projects in the future for grant applications, and the work that we do in the Public Works Department for these types of facilities.
Thanks, Sarah. Thoughts? Like Sarah had mentioned, we'd all went through this as the committee of the whole, and I don't know if anybody's had any thoughts since then or had anybody. I've had a few people reach out to me, and I think the important takeaway, the only question that folks have contacted me regarding are the new, putting sidewalks in existing neighborhood type of questions. And I think your point of, this is a plan, and this was identified by that group that these would be maybe good routes to do these. Certainly not adopting this plan isn't saying coming 2027 a sidewalk near you kind of a thing.
I don't know how we'd fund it.
Right. Well, but I think
but,
people just want some assurance that adopting the plan doesn't mean that the sidewalk will happen when the funding happens. It means that it may be at that point where you go to the landowners, you talk about it with them at the time and decide if it can or cannot happen. Because I think a lot of folks that I spoke with didn't involve themselves with a project, or the plan, which is, some folks saw that and thought, oh, I don't bike or walk much, so I'm not going to go attend these meetings. But then they find out the plan does impact them because it runs through their front yard. And now all of a sudden they would like to have a discussion about it. So I just think reassuring folks that as this, if this were to get passed, as these things happen, there'll be more community engagement regarding routes and things. And maybe not, I guess. I
guess just want to make sure, so we certainly wouldn't just say, well, it's in the plan, we're doing it no matter what, right? But it certainly does indicate that those are areas that are important to look at for those things, right? So I don't want to give the impression that it would have no weight later. Like if we if we approve this plan, and that we decided that your neighborhood, it's a vital connection point that's close to the city or close to schools, that has like a connection to something that is needed, bus drop off, whatever, that this doesn't have weight. So you're not saying that all of these are going to be implemented regardless of funding right away, but I would say that it does have weight, that there's going to be consideration for those accommodations in those areas, right?
Sure. And I understand that, but I'm just saying, I think though that the folks that it may be impacted would have the ability to have some input.
Yeah.
If not, I think that's concerning, right? If we adopt this plan and that means these sidewalks and different trails will happen, then I think we need to take a harder look at it now, or maybe send it back to the group based on some of the feedback I've received. If that's not exactly the case, then I'm a little more comfortable with proceeding.
Yeah, well, I would say this is not the step where we would see specific projects vetted through in its entirety, right? Like there are 50 some different projects here. Like we just wouldn't be able to go through all of that.
Right.
We obviously would have public consultation and walk through it.
Sure.
I will say that it's not typical that we have property owners that sign up and say like, yes, I want a sidewalk. I mean, that's just not how we tend to see things here. We would consult them, but it's our job to listen to the community as a whole, right? So we certainly would be consulting with the property owners, but if the property owner says like, I really don't want this here, it's up to you guys to decide whether it's the right choice or not. It's not necessarily that one property owner, right? And we've seen that with other areas. Things like our bike trails, we do the clearing of the snow for, and we maintain it. So we don't necessarily intend to put a burden on anyone that wouldn't necessarily be equal to what other people were asking of other people in the community. So like, for example, a sidewalk might be a little different because we have sidewalk all over the city and we do expect the property owners to maintain them. And so, obviously that would be the same, but I don't know. I want to be really careful. Like, I don't think this is not designating a specific project in a specific location. Like I had one person ask me, which side of the sidewalk are you going to, or which side of the street are you going to put the sidewalk? Like, we're nowhere near that. But I would say that we would be seriously looking at the area. Like, I think one of the areas you may be talking about, like the Abbey Edition, for example, it ranked really high because there's like bus drop-offs, there's no sidewalk at all, there's like an island of people that live in the mobile home court that have no access to the city at all. So like it ranked high because it made a lot of sense. And in it says sidewalks, right? But we would certainly look at the traditional sidewalk, right? Having the sidewalk go where on the road where it is would need to be engineered and looked at whether even that's like feasible. But there are other alternatives, right? Like there's areas behind there where people have like made their own trails already walking through an open field. And so, we could look at other ways of making that accommodation. And then there may be like infill in that area in the future where maybe that path goes instead, right? So like, I think every option or every situation, we really need to look at the situation at hand at that given moment, what makes the best opportunity that goes ahead. And a part of that obviously is the consultation with the property owners, but it would be a part of the process.
That was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted assurance to say that this isn't mean there's a sidewalk coming through your property next year kind of a thing. It's the funding. And you explained it perfectly there. Like there'll be, it's an idea that has been vetted and has value, and we'll work through the process to come up with the best solution. That's exactly what I was hoping was the answer.
Mayor Running, if you don't mind if I jump in just to add something to Sarah's comments. I mentioned this at the committee of the whole, but not everyone was at that meeting. Putting sidewalks in neighborhoods that have already been built up without sidewalks is a challenge. It's a hill to climb, so to speak. And so we're really careful about trying to make sure we were.
Sean, can you hear me?
I'm so sorry. I forgot to unmute myself.
Hold tight. You were talking. There's a lot of people in the crowd here, and before if you could introduce yourself. I know Sarah mentioned that you were in the crowd, but if you could just introduce yourself so everybody knows who's sharing this information. Thanks.
Sorry about that, Nate. Everyone, my name is Sean Murphy Lopez. I work for Tool Design and I'm a planner. I've been working with Sarah on this project since it was started back in 2023. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight in person, but I'm not sure at what point you muted me or I got muted, but I wanted to make the point that we were really focusing on really important connections to make. We know putting sidewalks on every street that doesn't have sidewalks, that already have houses and other buildings built up, that's a challenge. So we really wanted to make sure that where there was high density housing or parks, or where we already knew there were kids out there walking to school, that some main connections were made to both of the school campuses in town. So to Sarah's point, the lines that were drawn on the map, we think that connection is important. Maybe you make the connection by, moving it when you get into the details of design and working with all the property owners and getting that public input and coming up with what the cost of it would be. But the main point of those lines, especially like the example she used going along Abbey Lane, is that that's an important connection because of the park up at the northwest corner of the community and the mobile home court as well, connecting down to the public school.
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
And then Sarah, you said this plan actually helps you then help finance this whole ordeal, right? Like it's not just this is all in the city. It's like we're gonna actually go out and try to get grant money to make these connections happen, kind of thing. Is that right?
Yeah. So, in some situations, like I mentioned, a reconstruction project, we would look at that situation because we're doing it. Like Center Avenue, for example, is a good example. And in here, it has Center Avenue looking like Rock Avenue on the other side, right? And we can talk about that further, like in a separate item. But so in that scenario, we would already be doing a project, whereas in a lot of this, there's no way we're going to be reconstructing all of these areas, right? And there's really not an abundance of funding that the city has just in general. So one of the nice thing is historically, these projects have been well funded, like 90, 80% grant programs. I just pre all the changes with the government applied for one that was 100% financed through the grant program. Like these are just unheard of. But I will say a lot of them will rank you higher when you have a plan. Some of them won't even accept that you ask for money unless you have a plan, because again, they don't want it just like we don't, right? We don't want a haphazard network around the city. We want it to be thought up and looked at about what people's destinations are and what people need and where there's things lacking. So yeah, it serves a lot of purposes.
Can we get one more bike or bike rack in town? Just
Can we get one more what? Sorry, bike
just bike rack. Just
See, and that's what, so, I mean, a lot of focus is on like, where are the routes, but there's a lot of document there. I really do encourage everyone to look at it carefully. Like there's stuff that talks about all the different facets of things that we deal with, like vegetation, overhanging, sidewalk, snow removal, like now the works and paths and what people are looking for. And I think it's just really helpful. It was eye-opening for me, going to these input sessions and seeing what people liked and didn't like. And it's often not what the DOT tells us we should have, right? Like there was, our off-use, multi-use path is not necessarily their traditional way of doing it. They promoted more of what we see on Northeast Avenue, and so it's nice to know, like, what do people really want and feel comfortable with? And there also is a huge different style depending on who you are, right? And how you're walking, how you're biking, that kind of thing. So I could talk for a long time, so I'll stop right there. But I'm happy to answer questions about the plan.
How will this be integrated with the comprehensive plan that's ongoing and the recreation part of that?
Yeah. Well, so this has been provided to those consultants, and they've thought of it as a fairly helpful document. Obviously not finalized in their hands yet, but I think it just falls in line with what they're already doing. And I think, again, one of the interesting things to me was how important getting to the recreation sites were for people. Like I always thought like your daily duties and the school, but like parks was one of the top rated access points. And so hopefully we're supporting the recreation plan as well. And Kale was a part of the steering committee. And at our last meeting where we had the draft, gave a lot of good helpful input to us about parks and things like that. So.
Other questions? Thoughts?
I'd make a motion, we approve the bike and pedestrian plan.
Say AJ, I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Did you have something, Nate?
No, just a general comment. One of the things I've been struggling with as I'm talking to Sarah is that understanding that this is a conceptual plan and that much like the two other projects we talked about just before this, right? It gives a sense like we're approving moving in a general direction, right? We're moving towards making sure we're holding people accountable for cutting back their vegetation, sidewalk plowing, looking at options for sidewalks. Doesn't mean we have the exact answer yet on exactly how that will be done, but I guess the big thing I hear is like we're making a commitment towards these action steps, and exactly how it looks is still to be determined based on more vetting, more conversation, more approvals by this council. Is that generally fair, Sarah, to look at it
This
that
is
way?
our toolkit.
Right.
And guidance.
And so that just kind of reinforces sort of what the mayor was saying is much like Aaron Parker's proposal, like that's not the end of it. He can't just do whatever he wants and then you guys won't have another chance to look at it. There's going to be more of a process and more approvals as specific implementation plans are put in front of you.
Yeah. And that is what I was just hoping for people to be able to hear, right? Because people have read the whole plan and that's what's neat about it. There's been people that have communicated with me that said like, oh, I read the whole thing. The only thing I have a question about is, and because the rest, they get it. They understand the need for all those things. It's just when you start talking about putting things on people's properties, they tend to get a little
Yeah.
It's a hard conversation.
Sure.
And that's why it's,
Right.
I think, so important for us to like feel confident in what we're looking at, right?
Sure.
Like it wasn't, I don't want to impact you and I'm just hoping this is the where we should put a path, right?
Right,
Like
right.
that we've like got.
Right.
And I put this up here because I think there's so much in the document that sometimes it's hard to see, but like this is a part of the future network conversation. Like the second paragraph is that this is a plan and it's analyzed at the planning level, right? So like even in itself, it's saying like, you know, we're making these recommendations. This has been analyzed by professionals, but again, there's so much more to it than just, this is it. This is what we're doing.
Great. We've got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Right. I'm not sure if Todd voted. That's why.
Todd, I'm sorry, I was receiving a little feedback from you earlier in the conversation, so I'm just gonna ask you to unmute again and make sure you're able to get your vote in on that.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, thanks, everybody. Item number 19, review and approval of proposal from fire line backflow prevention maintenance at the library and city hall.
Okay. Just make sure I have the right thing up. Okay, so we saw this at the fire line does our maintenance, and most of the time is done installations, but of our fire protection system in our library and the city hall building here. And so we've talked to them about what we need to be doing for annual maintenance and inspection. And so this is an annual inspection. The more I learn about this, the more I realize that there's actually code requirements that do require that we do these kinds of inspections. So we need to be catching up on that. But this is a quote for them to come in once a year and do an inspection at City Hall and at the library, the wet system, so the fire sprinkler system, and the backflow preventer, which is a testable device that has to be registered with Department of Safety and Professional Services. So Public Works forwarded this. This is for 2025, 26, and 27, which again, in my experience, it's been really helpful for us to lock some numbers in because I've had other proposals for other things that have nearly doubled in price. So looking for approval to sign this contract.
Thanks, Sarah. Any questions? No.
So it's $400 for each location?
Yeah, so it would be 800 in
800.
total per year.
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve the contract for the fire line backflow prevention for the maintenance of library and city hall for 2025, 26, and 27.
This is John. I'll second.
All right, we got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma.
Aye.
All right. Item number 20, review and approval of pay request number 5 for the 2024 sewer project.
All right. I don't usually have a Badger environmental pay request for 13,506. So this is a good day. Usually it's much higher than that. But this is just catching up with some of the work as of when they submitted this at the beginning of April. And because there's only 13,000, not a lot on this one. We do have some work that needed to change, that we have a small change order coming in the future, but this is not it. So we have some riprap that they did under this contract, removing asphalt, and this would be like at the Broadway Avenue area, like County B, and then also on Chicago Avenue area. And then installing a lateral. This one so normally when I'm going through pay requests, I'm looking at, there's so many numbers here, but I'm looking at areas that are above the percentage. So what that would mean that like the quantities we assumed originally in the contractor, it's exceeded it. And so this one here is lateral, is over in the amount of lateral footage, and that's because we installed a third lateral on Broadway Avenue. compared to the two we had originally planned. So basically, everything's falling in line, and there's not a lot to this one. So looking for approval, did come forward from the Public Works Committee.
Cindy, I'll make a motion. We pay request number 5, 2024 sewer project, $13,506.57.
This is Emma and I second that motion.
All right, we got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
and Todd Spade.
Aye.
All right, item number 21, discussion with possible action on lead service line grant approval.
All right, Cheryl's gonna come up here. Let me get the screen set up for her 1 second. All right.
Okay, I will try and make this short. So, since late summer of 2023, Sarah and I have been trying our best to fulfill the requirements of a lead service line replacement grant we were awarded in 2024. The grant is run through the Wisconsin DNR. However, it is now at federal requirements instead of state requirements, and the federal requirements are quite different. Sarah and I, throughout all of 2024 and 25, have done our best and have jumped through hoops because these requirements kept changing all the time. In the end, we have run into a crossroads, so to speak, with supplying a final piece of documentation. However, the DNR has informed us that there are some funds at the state level yet that were left over from previous grants that they would like to disperse to municipalities to help customers who have already replaced their service lines in 2024. We have 4 eligible customers that we would be able to do this with. The grant has a 75% principal forgiveness that would be able to contribute to reimbursing the cost, and the loan we would have to take out would be at 0.25% interest. As noted in the last column on my spreadsheet, which is amount reimbursed to customer, excuse me, if you take number, let's see, we'll do Jane Smith. We actually have her full cost. The other two are the 5,500 is our estimated cost still, but the 2,400 is the actual cost. So the grant would be able to reimburse them $1,800. In order to avoid having any utility costs or closing costs, the interest cost, the 25% loan, be subject to actual ratepayer use, we will then charge back the 4 customers that we're reimbursing. The closing costs are $8,000. However, we would receive 75% principal forgiveness of that, so that the 4 customers really only have to pay $500 each for that. I did add a little bit of time for Sarah and I to administer all of the paperwork that we'll need to have the customer sign. There's some contracts, there's some agreements. I will have to file, and we have to do some other paperwork. So we did charge that back as well. And the interest on our net loan, which would be $5,700, is like, it was like $2,250, so $25. So what I'm asking the council, and this was brought forward from Public Works, is to approve a loan for $31,490. That would be the total cost or the total loan that we would have to take out. However, the utility does receive 75% of principal forgiveness, which would be 23,618. The balance of the actual loan then that we would have to pay interest on would be roughly 7,872 based on the numbers I have here. Again, with just a 0.25% interest, which we would be able to pay off within the next year. So that's why I only did a year's worth of interest. The net expense, after all said and done, would be zero to our ratepayers, as well as we would be able to give at least some reimbursement back to the customers for their replacement.
Cheryl, I know that we've been talking about lead service line replacement a whole lot, but, and this is great, but can you just give a quick context of what the program is intended outcomes? Like, what are we trying to achieve with this program for the benefit of the public at large? Like, why are we, just because there's a lot of people here, and I think the reason why we've been working on this project would be good for them to know.
So, and Sarah, you can step into if you like. So the, in 21 and 22, the water utility received a grant. It was a roughly $242,000 grant, I think, one year, and a $252,000 grant the next year. But we received 100% principal forgiveness. And these two grants were run at a state level. There was very different requirements, very different documentation that needed to be obtained or needed to be recorded. We had a lot of customers who took advantage of those grants. So Sarah and I Sarah applied and we were awarded the 2024 grant, but this time it was different. It is now run at a federal level and they have very different documentation requirements, very different guideline requirements. The grant is also only at a 75% reimbursement. And so the utility, though, would still have to take out a loan for the entire amount of the replacement cost. And we were awarded $242,000 again, I think this year or last year. We would still have to take out the entire $242,000 or whatever the total replacement costs of those customers were. And then we would receive 75% back. Part of the issue is that Sarah and I worked very hard to make sure that we did not have to increase rates all over the city for our ratepayers and to reimburse, 20, 25 people for replacing their water service line. And the idea is to remove any galvanized water service lines that were downstream of a lead gooseneck. So Sarah and I have tried, we had to do a lot of creative thinking. One of the creative plans we came up with, had a hard time getting through because I read quite a bit where I did not have to apply the PSC because we were not affecting ratepayer revenue. The PSC originally agreed with me. However, the DNR did not. And the DNR required us to file an application with the PSC. 5 months later, PSC said, well, you didn't really have to file an application with us because you were using not ratepayer revenue. However, we're really happy that you did because we ran it to our compliance attorneys. We had never seen such a creative plan, and they concurred. So then we had got past that hurdle. And then the federal government changed more requirements and now is requiring a lot more detailed documentation that the city historically has never obtained or had because it never had to. And we're talking about documents that go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s. Lead goosenecks and service lines, galvanized lines that were taken out in 80s, 90s, 2000s, and and above. They are requiring pictures or very specific, detailed on that specific property, that specific line, the specific size, specific length that was remote. Very few municipalities are able to do this. They have very few people who are able to take this grant now. Very few municipalities. And so here we are. So we then came to the conclusion that currently this grant is not going to work for us. We have made another application for the 2026 grant. We'll see what happens with that. I think the DNR, the federal government, as well as municipalities have learned a lot through this process. I don't know what their expectations will be like going forward, but Sarah and I have all the documentation in place. So if we receive an award for the next one and it's the same requirements, not sure if we'll be able to take it. Or hopefully they change that one small requirement and we're ready to go. We don't have to do anything but change dates. Is that good, Nate? Okay.
Thank you. That was
I think so.
very comprehensive. Thank you. And what are you, can you, what was the recommendation from Public Works again, just for the,
Move forward with this other smaller pot of money that is being provided at the state level.
I'm assuming everybody knows. Yeah, I'm assuming everybody knows, but Cheryl was having some fun to make sure that the owners' names were not being shared. So we are not submitting this to the auditor.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yes.
due to privacy laws and regulations, I couldn't actually put the 4 customers' names up there, so.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So we are looking for a motion to approve. Approve or accept that. Not exactly sure.
I don't
know how the wording is.
I think it's approved.
It says possible action on lead service line agreement.
This is Todd. I make a motion to approve the lead service line grant.
This is Emma and I second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call.
And I just wanted
I'm
to
sorry.
thank Cheryl and Sarah again for all the work they've done for all the months and months just to get this to help people out so they can get rid of the lead and the galvanized pipe in their home. That's what you were going for. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Roll call.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
and Cindy.
Aye.
All right. We are gonna put 23 in front of 22 since Sarah's already hooked up and sharing, so we don't have to big swap. So we're gonna move to item number 23, which is discussion with possible action on KL Engineering contract for Center Avenue project.
Okay, so this is for the Center Avenue project. We have approved the engineering, the general civil engineering, but there are a few decorative lights that are currently on Jefferson and Court Street that we need some engineering on. And so this is that contract. And short is the design and construction services, and the total anticipated cost is $14,280. We use KL Engineering when we did Rock Avenue. They've also done some work for us on the traffic engineering side, so we feel very comfortable with them. So looking forward to getting this approved so we can get them to finish the design that will be in a bid right away.
I'll make a motion to approve the KL engineering contract for Center Avenue project.
Steve, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Crystal,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and John.
Aye.
All right, now we'll go back to number 22, which is review and approval of pay request number 8 for the fire station project.
You read that?
Go ahead, Chief.
Not, again, not a lot to say, but this one's for 877,195.86. A lot of that is going towards concrete work. They've been putting a lot of concrete flooring in the station. Again, I would say the other ones of importance to kind of talk about. Let me find my numbers. I can't hardly read this thing.
Can't read it all.
Yeah. Where did it go?
So.
Well, fair enough. So, thank you. That helps me. A lot of electrical, a lot of HVAC, plumbing, things like that. So again, there's nothing special to really bring up unless you have any questions. The percentages on the projects are following suit with how far along each contractor is, that's kind of what I've been basing it off of. Levi's been doing a really good job from Beerbeckers tracking, and I don't think I've talked to him yet on this one, so I'll make that statement. I'll follow up with him before we actually let the check go. But yeah, the only real holdup has been the weather. We just, every time we seem to dry out enough to where they maybe could do some outside work, then it rains again and puts it back a little bit. So overall, though, I would have to say it's going really good. So unless you have any questions, I won't keep yapping. There's not much to really say.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions? Now we're looking for a motion to approve.
Well, this is Crystal, and I would approve the pay request number 8 for the fire station projects. And I believe the amount is $877,195.86.
Yep.
Steve, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirkie,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Crystal.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Chief. Item number 24, discussion with possible action on chapter 8.32, an ordinance amendment regarding noxious weeds.
Okay, so I know we always love every year at this time amending the noxious weed ordinance just to make it work better for the community. But this one's more of just a housekeeping issue, because the municipal court no longer exists as a municipal court. We're going through circuit court now. George felt it was important, especially since this sort of ordinance is tested every year just to make sure that the changes are made to reflect the fact that we've moved to circuit court. And so you can see that in the red line changes. And then the only other one was about sitting in county jail should you not pay your forfeiture, simply because that is it's a little bit overkill, and it's also going to end up being a cost to the city that we would have to pay to the county for somebody sitting in jail over an ordinance violation. So thought that was appropriate to remove. And I guess with that, George, myself, who have reviewed this, we didn't do the full round with this with department heads because we felt this was more of again, housekeeping issues. So Rick, I know this ordinance is to you, and I'm sorry we haven't connected. Do you have anything you want to say on this, or is this all in line? Actually, I think I did touch base with it. Okay, good. We did talk. I was like, oh, you probably talked to the police chief about ordinance changes. So if it sounds like Chief Needfeld doesn't have any comments, so we put it forward to you for your consideration.
And this is the first reading, but I think we could certainly waive this
I would
second reading
certainly
if somebody's
suggest
so
yes.
inclined.
Cindy, I make a motion, we approve chapter 8.32 ordinance amendment regarding noxious weeds and waive the second reading.
This is Crystal, I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Item number 25, discussion with possible action on date change for city council meeting on 5/27/2025. So I don't know who wants to.
I'll start.
talk.
So the reason we wanted to bring this up is that May 27th is the day after Memorial Day, which would lead myself and Lori to believe that there's probably a high number of council members who may not be in town for that. And why we want to bring it here is because we just want to get a sense of what quorum may look like on that day, because we have scheduled some very important issues, especially related to the Hanson Farm and getting development agreements signed and moving forward, and hitting our timelines on that project, that we didn't want to be surprised with a possible lack of quorum that day and then have to pivot in the moment. So that's, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not recommending that we change it if we don't have to, but want to just maybe even get a head count at this time about who may be around or not around on that date.
No, I'll be there.
I will be present.
I'll be present.
That's still.
I will not be,
Okay.
just so the okay. Just so if it makes you feel better, I did lump you in with me with the fact that neither one of us would likely be here that day, but okay.
Okay.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. Todd
Todd?
Kirking.
Yeah, I'll be there.
So we should be all set for that day. Thank you for that. And I wouldn't see a need to change unless the mayor wants to change it
Well,
up because
and just so the group's aware, I may try to attend remotely, but I don't know. Stable. I have remoted in from this location once before.
to make
We'll try it again.
success. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
there goes my, huh? Right. It's, I won't talk. Steve can run the meeting. I'll just be present. All right. So with that, we'll move on past that agenda item to payment of the bills, item 26.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills. And I would like to add, amend that we pay the 2,000 that the Historic Preservation Commission awarded to the Vernon County Historical Society for the HVACs.
AJ, I'll second.
Was there another
Was.
amendment you wanted, Lori,
Yes.
or needed?
That was the one that Nate needed for the revise bill.
So on the additional bills, there's a bill from Revise for $444,400 for annual hosting of the website and tech support and all those sorts of things. I'm having a conversation with our representative in Revise to seeing if that needs to be paid, because there's some ambiguity in the contract about how first year costs were going to be handled. So I sort of directed the finance committee to wait to approve these bills, but wait to cut that check contingent on my finishing the conversation.
Are you two all right with that?
Amend my motion to add that also.
Good with that? Second?
Second.
Yeah, you have the second. Yep. All right. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Crystal,
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
All right. Item number 27 is a second period for public comment. Any members of the public that would like to make a comment, now would be the time. Nobody in house. If there's anybody online that would like to make a comment. Hearing none, I would take a motion to adjourn.
This is Emma, and I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Steve, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Yeah, turn them all off.